I have actually loved writing these last two books because the whole point of the book called Grounded was the idea that God was with us here in the world. And I take readers on really a journey into the world of my own life and point out how God is present in the world with us, the world of neighbors and the world of nature. Then in Grateful, I was thinking about, okay, so God is here. So what? How do we live? And through this very quirky set of circumstances, I began to feel this pull and this inclination to writing a book about gratitude. And somehow I knew that gratitude was connected to living a grounded life, to living a life of God with us. And as the project unfolded, it really became so, the connection between the two became so powerful to me, because if God is here with us, God is constituting all of the time the table, that God is sitting with us at this table in this wilderness at this time, and that God's always offering to that table gifts. And so the two pieces of the story really became, where is God and Grounded? And now the next question is, why? Why is the world this way? And the answer is in Grateful. The world is this way because we have not practiced the reality of that grace and those gifts. The reason why the world is this way is we have turned a table of abundance into a table of scarcity. And if we can recover the deepest why? Because we live in God's table, we live at God's table, because gifts are freely given, because grace animates everything. And why is because we have hoarded the gifts. And think of how the world would be transformed.
That sounds gospel-y.
Oh my gosh. It's a friend of mine said, that sounds like the good news. And I said, no, it's not just the good news, it's the best news. It is the greatest news ever. Because if we don't hoard those things, instead we just respond in love, we pass around the gifts of abundance, so many of the things that we see as the problem of evil would go away. Poverty, people who are trapped in cycles of disease and abuse. Not everyone goes away, because of course fear goes away. Yeah, violence goes away. We don't, not everything becomes perfect, but things become a lot better if we understand that we live in a circle of abundance, at a table of gifts, and that our job is to keep inviting people to the table, keep feeding people, and know that there's always enough. There's always enough.
And what gives you the hope that those tables will be reborn and emerge?
The thing that gives me hope right now is that there's so much that's bad, and so many people are sad and afraid, that there might be the possibility to hear and understand the table that we haven't had for a very long time. Because as long as we were living within a pyramid that rewarded certain people, it was worthwhile keeping the pyramid in place, because we thought, oh yeah, it's going to be okay. The pyramid worked for me, so it's going to work for other people too. It just takes time. But now I think that we are feeling, in so many ways around the planet, the failure of that pyramid structure. There's really an emotional battle going on around the whole of the globe between the people who are saying, no, really, it is the pyramid, and the point is we have to build the pyramid stronger with bigger walls and thicker base, and that's going to be the answer to all of our problems. But there are so many more people who are seeing that is a lie. and that we really need to be living in an alternative story, and that there really is the only other story of beauty that is available to us is this story about gifts and grace and tables and circles and living with one another. It's the story that Martin Luther King was preaching before he died. I love he has this great speech. He talks about the world house. And people forget that speech and that vision of King. They always think of King, oh, he's a Christian minister, and he was a Christian minister.
His name was King too.
It is kind of funny his name was King, but they say, oh, he's a Christian minister, so he's talking about the church and he's talking about Christian society. But in the last couple years of his life, he was saying things like, we now live in a great world house where there are Christians and Muslims and Hindus and Jews and people who don't believe in God. And we are all going to have to learn to live together, or we are all...
New table liturgy.
Yeah, or we are all going to die together. We are all going to have to sit at this table of the world together, or we are all going to die together. And that's the urgency of now. There was the urgency of now when it came to civil rights and the immediate problems of freeing Black people from the shackles of injustice that had bound them here in the United States. But there was this bigger right, this human right that King was opening up, and that was the right to sit at the table together. And he knew that the table was salvation, and that all of us together, no one owning abundance, nobody controlling the gifts, that table, that would be our salvation. And if we didn't set it, we were going to die. And so that's where we are, is that he was right. And a lot of people know that now. And my sister is a mathematician. And we're not much alike at all. She's also an atheist. And we were talking about this, about pyramids and about tables. And she heard me preach on the power of the table. And she came up to me afterwards. We're driving back to her house. And she said, you know where a pyramid gets its power? And I said, from the bottom? And she laughed, because of course if the pyramid gets its power from the bottom, why have we ever had slavery? The bottom is always inherently unstable in some ways of a pyramid. And she said, no, a pyramid only survives because of the middle. And so when you draw a circle within a pyramid, if the circle in the middle of a pyramid is stable, the pyramid survives. She said, but if the circle begins to fray, if there's discontent, if the circle is not balanced enough, if the circle begins to experience some sort of discontent, if the circle falls within the pyramid, then the pyramid can't be stable. And I just looked at that and I thought to myself, well, I guess it pays to know something about geometry.
Right.
Is that right now, the circle which has been held in slavery by the pyramid is inherently destabilizing. And if that circle can move out into the world as an independent geometry of politics and a geometry of spirituality and a geometry of theology and a geometry of economics, then we might have a new world at hand. Is that we are seeking a new structure, and the collapse of the pyramid opens the way for a circle.